All right.
Hmm.
We're live.
Well, hello, Gary, and welcome everybody to today's public training where we're going to be talking about a pre-listing packet template.
Pre-listing packet template. Chris, I got to tell you, man, well, this is probably one of my favorite subjects to talk about in all of real estate. And it's really because this made this more than anything else makes my life much easier when I'm working with sellers. I mean, it
Mhm.
makes everything easier. It makes getting the listing. It makes the appointment easier. It makes the fulfillment on my promises to them during the listing easier. It's just everything's easier.
Well, here's what I've observed is that when you have an effective pre-listing packet, um, it's easier to communicate your value. And I think that's something we'll talk more about communicating your value in the marketplace. But I think that's something that all service professionals have to wrestle with. I think it's something that all of us who are service professionals must develop skill, which is we might be great at taking care of the customer, but that doesn't mean we're great at explaining that value to the customer. And sometimes we're so close to that value that we don't even know how to describe it. We don't know how to define it. We don't know how to
Well,
explain what it is.
not only that, Chris, is that if I provide the value, I just automatically assume that they should understand the value that I'm providing there. It's like it
Right.
should be inherent, but it's not.
And they should tell their friends and their family member and anybody else that the referrals and
They
recommendations. They
should.
should then know what that value is and then communicate to others. But in fact, you have to be really intentional about creating that experience for people and communicating that value to people so that they're going to know what it is that you're going to do for them that is superior to what their other options are. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I recently got back from the National Association of Realtors conference and expo, and one of the underlying themes of many of the conversations that I had with people was, people being concerned about things like discounting in the marketplace, people being concerned about things like iBuyers in the marketplace. And so much of it just distills down to this problem of being able to communicate what our value is and to know what it is and to have the confidence of the value that we bring to each and every transaction. So with that, I think it all starts with a pre-listing packet, Gary. And so I think, oh, look at that. We're already past the top of the hour. We got
We
people
are,
who
and
are already.
everybody's like, "Wait, did they start early?" No, we're just now starting. We're getting started right now. In fact, Chris, we should probably pull up the slides
And
and get started.
all right, let's fire it up. All right, guys. So we've got a question for you all, and we were going to ask you to respond to a poll.
Yeah.
And because I want to know, Gary and I want to know, which of the following of these things is most important to you. And we're going to pop up the poll there. Gary, if you want to pop the poll, I'll just kind of read through it real quick.
It's up.
So if just tell us which one is the most important. You can only vote for one, but would you like to be known as a listing expert agent in your market? Let us know if that's what you're here to accomplish. Maybe perhaps number two, I never want to lose a listing to the competition. If that's most important to you, list that there. Or perhaps it's number three, I could use a boost in confidence for my next listing appointment. So just let us know which one of those three things is most important to you, because what we're going to do is we're going to start to what we're going to do is we're going to tailor the presentation based on what you guys say. Now, Gary,
Yeah.
you
I was telling everybody here, I think before everybody joined here, this is my favorite presentation that we do. This is my favorite subjects that we talk about. And it's because it talks about one of my most coveted creations that we ever created in my past 23 years of selling real estate. And that is the pre-listing packet. Now, before we get started, I do want to tell you, everybody, there's a very specific reason why I actually created this pre-listing packet. And it goes way back in history when I was kind of just starting in real estate. And what I noticed is every time I was going on a listing appointment, Chris, I was going on like 2 or 3 appointments before I got my listing agreement signed. And I thought, man, there's just got to be a better way. I'm spending so much time at the listing appointment. I'm spending so much time explaining all the services and benefits. There's got to be a better way. And I thought, why don't I send this stuff out before I actually show up to the appointment. So, my number one goal was to reduce the number of appointments I had to go on before I got a signed listing agreement. And and it actually worked. It worked so well that I would go on one listing appointment and get the agreement signed. And then what I also noticed is it started making my listing appointments a lot smoother and easier. My clients ended up being much more educated as to the value that I brought. And because of that education and the differentiation, they started to trust me more. And also, another thing I knew is I had a lot more confidence going into my listing appointment, and I knew I was going to get that listing agreement signed because of all of these things I was doing. I was educating them, I was differentiating myself, and ultimately, at the listing appointment, Chris, we ended up having a much better conversation because we weren't so focused on me pitching of like why they need to hire me. We actually just built a relationship, and I didn't have to sell myself.
Well, because all the persuasion is done beforehand, right? In fact, I'm looking at the poll right now, and it looks like the lion's share of folks want to be known as a listing expert agent in their market.
Yeah.
And I can't think of a more effective tool than something like a pre-listing packet to be able to set yourself up as that listing expert agent in the mind of that prospect that you're going to sit down with before you even show up, right? Like if you are setting the stage and having the understanding that they have the understanding that you're that listing expert agent, well, if the pre-listing packet does a bulk of that persuasive work and then you show up, you kind of show up like a rock star, right? You kind of show up like a celebrity. You kind of show up just like you can show up like a boss, because the hard part, the persuasive part, maybe the part that we don't necessarily like doing so much, is done for us, and we get to focus on taking care of that client.
You know what actually ends up happening, Chris, and this happened to me over and over again, is I would knock on the door and I say, "Hi, I'm Gary Kreth." And they say, "Oh, we know who you are. We've seen all your videos. We've read everything you've sent us. Come on in. We're excited for this." And at that moment, everything is shifted. And
so you've won.
That's why I love that. Now, I do want to ask this question, Chris. Yes. I want to ask everybody, just go to the poll over in the chat section and let us know, do you use a pre-listing packet? And as you do that, I want to explain what's about to happen today. Number one, Chris and I are going to train for the next hour on this pre-listing packet and the value and the benefits and the tools and tips that we have for you. So we're going to do that for an hour. And during that time, inevitably, you're going to have questions. You're going to want clarification on certain things. What we would like for you to do is go over to the chat section and ask your questions there, because then at the very end of this presentation, we're going to go through an extensive Q&A session with you to make sure that we answer all of your questions. And in fact, as Chris just pulled up, our entire goal for you today is to help you create and use a very powerful pre-listing packet to set yourself apart from all the competition and ultimately get you recognized as a listing expert, because that is when that's when things shift. I mean, that's when it gets easier to actually get listing appointments. That's when it gets easier to secure the listings as your own. And that's when it gets a lot easier to fulfill on these promises that you make for your clients and then generate a lot more referrals.
I think I'm looking at the poll responses here, and it looks like the majority of folks are not using a pre-listing packet. So I think you guys are definitely in the right place. You're going to get a lot. You're going to get a whole you're going to see our exact template of everything that you can send out. And even for those of you who are currently using a pre-listing packet, I'm pretty confident you're going to pick up an additional idea, an additional template, an additional something that you can include to improve the effectiveness of what you're already sending out. Yep. And so with that, Gary, we should probably just take a moment to introduce who we are. If this is the first time you're joining us, my name's Chris Scott. I'm a real estate digital marketer. I manage social media accounts with over 200,000 connections. We work to generate over 5,000 leads a month across our different businesses. But today we're really here to learn from Gary. So Gary, can you just tell everybody a little bit about your experience, your 20 plus years experience of being that listing expert agent?
Yeah, so my name is Gary Kreth. I am a listing expert agent. From the very get-go of my career, I decided I wanted to focus on listings. And the reason I wanted to focus on listings is I knew I could actually carry a lot more listings at a time than buyers, which means that I could actually sell a lot more real estate. And then as a huge added benefit to that is all of these listings started generating me a lot of buyers. It was great. And at the peak of my career, before Chris and I started sharing everything that we're doing with you, I was going on about 6 listing appointments every single week. And like I said, I could really leverage my time because I could handle, and it was handling, about 50 active or pending listings at a time.
That's a lot of listings. That's a lot of listing appointments.
That's a lot of listing appointments, and that's a lot of listings. But I'll tell you, I could not do it without this pre-listing packet.
All right, so here's what we're going to cover, guys. Real quick, we're going to hit on the 3 pre-listing packet precepts. This is the stuff that needs to go into your pre-listing packet. It's a little bit of the why behind each of the templates that we're going to share with you today. We're going to get into the 5-part pre-listing packet, which is exactly what to send out. I'm going to show you actual templates and examples, so you're not left to wondering, like, well, how do I put this together? You're going to see how to put it together. I'm going to share with you, and this is one of my favorite things we're going to talk about today, is a tool to ethically sabotage the competition, and all the competition that's out there, right? Like I'm going to give you a tool that will ethically do this in a superior way, and then we're going to talk about mirroring your listing presentation. And with that, let's just dive right into the meat of today's presentation, Gary. I want to go over the 3 things that you must include in your pre-listing packet, right? Like these are the things, everything that goes in here should serve one of these purposes, right? If you think about it, what we have to do is stand out from our competition. I mean, like, here's to drill down on this a little bit more and I want you guys to think about this for yourself. Jot this down because you're going to want to think about this after today's presentation. But why should a seller hire you over somebody else? Really think about that. Why is it because you're cooler? Is it because you're better? I mean, like, why should they really? One of the things that we end up like having this struggle with for a lot of folks is feeling the pressure to negotiate on your fees, right? You're feeling that pressure to discount on your fees. But here's the thing: according to the National Association of Realtors, only 4% of sellers hired their real estate professional based on fees. 4%, right?
That's incredible. Boy, that flies right in the face of what most people's concern is, doesn't it?
Right. Well, I mean, here we might be feeling like we got to discount our fees, or we're looking at these firms and these brokerages, often 1 and 1.5% listing fee. And here's the thing: only 4% of the sellers actually use that as their primary decision-making criteria. Right.
Well, I can tell you for a fact, Chris, that is not why my clients hire me.
Why do they hire you?
Well, because of my reputation. And it all comes down to that reputation, both online and offline. And what I have done strategically over the past 23 years in my career is to build a brand to stand out. And my reputation stands out for me. And the reputation, I think reputation, people say, oh, well, this is just what people are saying about you. It's not. It's not just what people say or think about you. It's about what we say and what we do and how we act on that. And it's really through the promises that we make to our clients and then how we execute on them. And that's why this pre-listing packet is so critical to really build that reputation before you even meet with a client.
I want you guys to write this phrase down: distinctive value. Distinctive value. So when we want to stand out and differentiate ourselves, we must show, and in the mind of that owner, of that seller, of that client, we want them to know that there is distinctive value that we have to offer compared to the competition, right? And so that is really making ourselves stand out with distinctive value, which means not just standing out saying, I'm the best, I'm the best. No. It's about having that reputation providing distinctive value, meaning that the what's in it for me as the customer, like I know what that is. That's why I've decided to hire you, Gary, because of that distinctive value that you have that's represented throughout your reputation. The next thing we want to do is build and cement that reputation and trust, right? Like we want to be, you guys know this already, is that people are going to hire us based on the reputation, which means what? That means they have to know, like, and trust us, right? They got to know, like, and trust us. And the more they know, like, and trust us, the more likely we are the ones that they're going to reach out to, that they're going to contact, that they're going to hire to list and sell that home. But are we proactively and preemptively doing stuff to build that trust, to build that reputation? I mean, this goes beyond just your pre-listing packet. Like, is the marketing that you send out building trust? Is the marketing that you're sending out to cultivate leads and to build and to be able to find clients and to be able to find those listing opportunities? Is it building trust? Is it building your reputation? Which then leads to the pre-listing packet. Is that cementing that trust? Is that making sure that that it verifies and affirms the trust that we've been working to build, so that when we get to that listing appointment, the heavy lifting is done. And then when we speak of the listing appointment, everything in our pre-listing packet should also be working to set that listing appointment up, meaning that we're setting expectations for what we're going to do. We're setting expectations for the value that they're going to receive and for what they need to do to receive that value. And so these precepts are going to be each one of the components. There's 5 parts to our pre-listing packet. You're going to see each one of the parts that are in that pre-listing packet does one or more of these precepts. Is that making sense? Okay, let's move on then, because
let's hit that 5-part pre-listing packet and the email that actually sets everything up.
Okay, so I'm just going to preface this, everybody, and you're the next slide. Actually, this slide, I know you can't read. Please don't go to the chat section saying you can't read it, because I'm going to blow it up for you in just a moment. Before we read it and before I go into each section, I just wanted to let everybody know, I know you can't read it. It's blurry. It's going to get less blurry when I zoom in. But before I zoom in, I want you to understand the parts that we're going to be examining in this pre-listing packet, right? And so the 5 parts are confidence links, property marketing, client onboarding, seller homework, and the PS. Now, I first want to make a note about why we use an email as opposed to some other form of a pre-listing packet. The reason we use email is, one, it's easier to produce and to modify and to update and always keep relevant. Okay, that's one. But that's not the most important one. More importantly, we can use just more than one form of media to be able to communicate those precepts or to establish those precepts, right? So if we're working to stand out and differentiate, or if we're working to build trust, or if we're working to set up that listing presentation, instead of only relying on text or the printed word or photos, I can then now use, because of this being digital, I can use things like video. I can use things like a lot more graphics. I can use things like visuals to aid in the effort of being able to communicate that value through our pre-listing packet. So that is why we've chosen to do it in email. Now, with that said, it's possible to do this in formats other than email, right? You could totally print this out.
Yeah.
You're going to
in fact, Chris, I used to, before this whole digital era, I was printing this out and I would hand deliver it to their house the day before my appointment. So, and if you still have clients who really want things printed out and they don't have email, well, just hand deliver it. It's fine. Do whatever you have to do.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. By sending it out you always want to send it out in the format that makes most sense. I'm going to suggest, though, 90 to 95% of your clients, they're gonna email's going to work for them for something like this. Okay. Remember, this is a pre-listing packet. And so it assumes you've had some communication with them. You're not sending this out to a cold audience individual, right? You're not just sending this out to somebody that you've not had some interaction, because this is a pre-listing packet, assuming that you're about to go on a listing appointment in the very near future. So you've had some communication, and what this is doing is setting up that actual listing appointment. With that, Gary, then let's dive into each one of these 5 sections in significantly greater detail. Don't worry, like I said, we're going to read each line. You're going to understand exactly what goes into it.
And take notes. Take lots of notes here, because we want you to actually use everything that we're doing here.
Yeah. And, take screenshots. Do the whole deal. So the first section is confidence links. Like the name implies, the purpose of these confidence links
is to build confidence.
This is to build confidence, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't want to do the opposite. We don't want to like build lack of confidence, right? We don't want to like create reason to cast doubt. It's to build confidence. Remember those first of the two precepts, right? To stand out, right? To differentiate. And remember, we talked about distinctive value there. So we want to differentiate in a distinctive way, in a way that shows our distinctive value. So that's one. And we want to build trust. We want to build trust. So
Chris,
that is
one thing
what
I want to ask you before you dive into the actual content of the email, the subject line. Can you take us through the subject line?
yeah.
Well, why is that so important? Like the exact words that you're using, why is that so important?
You know what? Language in an email is very, very important. I saw somebody in the chat section, I think maybe I saw it here, was asking about how do I make sure people, open or read and see this email? And I'll tell you how. It's by putting in there a compelling subject line. Now, there's two parts to this, right? So how does any email get opened? I'll tell you how. People look at two things. They look at who the email's from, all right, and they look at what the subject line says. And there's sort of a balance. There's sort of like in the person's mind, they're going to look at it and make a judgment on whether to open it or not, right? And so, assuming they know you because they have an appointment scheduled with you, and then they're going to see the subject line, then that's going to make them open it up. By the way, the reason why this one's been written the way it has been, actions required before our appointment on Friday, means that, oh crap, there's stuff I got to do. Now, we've told them, hopefully you've told them, I'm going to be sending you some information with stuff you got to do before our appointment. Be looking for that email, okay? But that's why we put that first and foremost. And so, Gary, I'll just kind of start reading through this.
Yeah, let's do it.
And we'll start getting into those confidence links portion of it, right? So it says, hey, Gary, as a reminder, our appointment is this Friday at 6 p.m., okay? By the way, anything in bold here means that it's important, right? Like, so we're helping that person read it by making it bold, right? I don't do anything by accident when it comes to these emails. So as a reminder, our appointment is this Friday at 6 p.m. Before we meet, please complete these 4 simple activities to make most of our time together, right? Please complete these 4 simple activities to make the most of our time together. The first of those 4 simple activities is to watch these videos. Again, that section's in bold. Watch these videos. Please take 10 minutes to watch these short videos on getting ready to sell your home. Spending 10 minutes now saves us 45 minutes later. That's important to include there so they know there's a benefit to them in watching these emails. Now, as much as they probably want to hang out, we want to hang out with the client. We also want to show everybody's time starved, right? So we tell them, hey, look, we saved 10 minutes. We say if you invest that 10 minutes now, we're going to save 45 minutes later. That means you get to eat dinner sooner, right? You get the kids off to bed earlier. And so then what we do is we include the confidence links. Remember, I talked about the confidence links. For us, what we do is we have a couple of videos here, right? The first video is how to market your home in the Austin real estate market. We get to how to get your Austin home ready for sale, and then home pricing strategies. And so I think what I'm going to do, I'm not going to play the whole thing, Gary, but actually what this does, this is by those links linked to our YouTube channel. Okay. Yeah. And on our YouTube channel, there's these videos, and I'm just going to play a portion of one of them so you guys can get an understanding of what kind of effort we're putting into the creation of the assets that go into our pre-listing packet, right? So the stuff that we're going to create that goes into our pre-listing packet, or that's going to get linked to from our pre-listing packet, is essential to right? Communicating that, to building that trust, right? To be able to make ourselves stand out. So let's just take a real quick look at this video. So you guys, we can talk more about it after once you understanding on exactly what it is. Let's take a look.
Hi, this is Chris Scott.
And I'm Gary Kreth of Kreth and Scott Homes. And today we're here to answer the question, what are you going to do to attract buyers to my home?
Well, Gary, that's an excellent question because there's the way people used to do it, and then there's the way we do it today. Mm-hmm. So in the old days of selling real estate, and I joke around by saying in the old days of selling real estate, but in the old days, people, real estate professionals, would put a sign in the yard, they would put the home in the MLS, and then they would pray that it sells. Right? And so that's how we used to do it in the old days.
Well, you could get away with it then, but times they have changed. So Chris, what is critical now to attract home buyers to a home?
Sure. Well, first you have to take in consideration preparation of the home, pricing strategy for the home, and here's the big kicker, promotion of the home. And so this is where what we do is really take into account the marketing strategy.
All right. We're back,
Gary. So you could see all we're doing in that video is we're educating. But I want you to point out, I mean, Gary, we should probably point out, we're educating, but doesn't the fact that we're on video educating make us stand out pretty significantly?
Makes us stand out. And ultimately, what happens is that, anybody who's sharing expert advice like that, you know what the client thinks, Chris?
Hmm.
They think, oh, these are experts,
Mhm.
they're experts, they're personable. And then what happens when you show up at the house, they've already seen you, they feel like they know you. And it again builds that trust, builds that reputation.
So, when we had talked about producing distinctive value, recall, like one of the things that hopefully that they're hiring us for is that they believe in hiring us, they're going to have a better outcome, right? When it's selling a home, that they're going to get market value. When it's selling the home, it might make it being just an easy process. When it's selling the home, maybe moving within a certain time frame, right? On the flip side, when it's buying a home, right, it's a different set of outcomes that they're hoping to achieve, right? Maybe like when buying that they're going to pay below market value, right? So like when it comes to that distinctive value, part of it is our knowledge and our expertise.
Yeah.
So we want our clients and everyone who's going to work with us to literally place a premium on our knowledge and expertise, meaning they are seeking out our knowledge and expertise, us being that trusted advisor, and that it is valuable enough to them that they would pay a premium to do so, right? Well, one of the ways to show that knowledge and expertise is to put it into a video and share it with them, right? This is before you meet with them. Now, all of a sudden, right, they're going into it already believing you're that expert. So you don't have to spend as much time building rapport. The rapport has been established. In their mind, you're already the expert. You already have credibility. You already have the authority because they've been watching your videos. They've been learning from you. And all of a sudden, because they've been learning from you in these videos, it balances the equation to where you're getting recognized as the expert that you are just by sharing in advance the expertise that you have. Does that make sense? All right. So let's keep moving along. But before we move along, is there anything in there that we need to address from a Q&A question
No,
standpoint?
most of these questions we'll address in Q&A.
Perfect. All right. So let's move on to the next section, which is property marketing. Property marketing. I'm going to read this email and then we'll talk a little bit more about what this means. So remember, in the beginning, it said, hey, there is part of this pre-listing packet. We were asking them to do 4 simple activities. The first one was to watch those videos. The second of those simple activities is to review my property marketing plan. So it says, hey, marketing your home is one of my biggest jobs and I take it seriously. We will be discussing my marketing plan for your home when we meet. And then when they click on it, it shows them the actual marketing plan for
By
the
the
home.
way, Chris, this is probably my favorite document that we send out to our clients before the listing appointment, and then even we address during the listing appointment because, man, you want to talk about standing out as an expert. This is it.
I got a question. I mean, for you guys, do me a favor. Just go to the chat section there. Are you using a property marketing plan to market listings? Are you showing that property marketing plan to prospective sellers? Any one of those two things. I mean, you think about it, according to the National Association of Realtors, the number one thing that sellers want us to do, one of the reasons why they hire us, the task that's most important is that we market the home to potential buyers. And so what that implies is if that's what they want us to do is to market the home to potential buyers, what that implies is we've got the skills to do so, right? By the way, that's why in that first video, we kind of made fun of just putting it in the MLS, putting a sign in the yard and praying that it sells, because that's not implied by, I'm hiring you to market this home to potential buyers. I'm not hiring you to do as little as possible. Right? Like if that's what I'm hiring you to do, please do more than just put a sign in the yard and put in the MLS. Right. So that's what the agreement, that's the unstated agreement based on that's what sellers want from us. That's what we want to do. Now, this tool will make you stand out because most people are not sharing what they're doing. And if they are, they haven't packaged it up into a way that's, again, remember that distinctive value, making yourself stand out and putting it onto a nice silver platter and handing it over to that prospective seller to be able to say, here's what I'm going to be doing. By the way, Gary, you've had the experience where you actually, there's 2 sides of the story. One time you showed up without talking about marketing, and good friend of yours decided to hire somebody else. And then another time you showed up and you did send this in advance and you beat out 5-6 other agents that you were competing against on that listing, right? Can you tell everybody just I want this thing to sink in, because I really want people to be convinced that at the end of today's presentation, they're going to spend some time updating their property marketing plan to make it awesome.
Well, so the first time is I had a very good friend. I played poker with him every Tuesday night for 7 years. And I went over to his house on a Saturday to pick him up. We were going out on my boat on the lake. And he said, oh, hey, by the way, my wife and I are thinking of selling our house. Could you take a look and tell us what we need to do to prep? And I was like, sure. So we went through the house and I just showed him. And then we went out on the boat. Well, I went over to his house the following Tuesday for poker, and another realtor sign was in the yard. And I thought he was joking. And I was like, dude, really? And he said, what? I need to sell our house quickly. And this other realtor was telling us about how she markets online and how she does all this stuff. And I'm like, well, so do I. And he's like, well, yeah, but you didn't tell me. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is a wake-up call. And so then what we did is we started sending this out religiously to everybody. And I had this listing appointment in Bolden, which is one of the hottest areas in downtown Austin. And it was a coveted listing. I really wanted this one. And I knew I was competing against 7 other luxury agents on this listing. And I was nervous going in, but I followed our process. I sent the pre-listing packet. I show up and we talk, and they're like, Gary, we're good. We don't really need to talk about it anymore. We're good to go. We're hiring you. And I always ask people, why did you choose to hire me over everybody else? And in this particular time, they said that marketing plan that you sent us over was so detailed that only an expert who knows how to do that would be able to create that and send that to us. And nobody else sent us that. And so you're our guy. And so that it just came crystal clear, is that follow the process, educate the client about how you market and take care of their homes in a written format so they have it, and then go and build a relationship with them.
All right. So, Gary, I'm gonna do something here that I wasn't planning on doing, but I'm gonna do.
Hold on, real quick. I want to address something.
I'm gonna address it too. I was going to do the same thing. So I need you guys to do me a favor. When you're over in the chat section wondering and asking if this live, is it not live, is it recording, or yada, 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 it actually distracts us from being able to present to you the value that we're trying to do. So Josh, Leslie, I forgot the other person's name in there. Do me a favor. Stop talking about whether it's live and focus on what we're talking about, because you're distracting me with all that stuff, and I'm trying to give a good presentation.
You crack me up. All right, let's keep going.
All right. Otherwise, I'm going to turn the chat section off. That's it. I'm going to turn the chat section off so that we can do this. No, I'm just kidding, guys. No, you can debate that. But really, in all honesty, try to ask questions that are going to be productive in the sense of, hey, ask questions about what we're sharing, ask questions for clarification. We'll answer some of them real time if we can, but most of them we tend to push to Q&A. But if it's relevant to what we're talking about and has nothing to do with whether this is a replay or not, then I will absolutely stop and answer the question. Now, with that said, Gary, I do want to point out, like 76% of home sellers abandon their previous agent. Get this. So according to the National Association of Realtors, when a home seller chooses their real estate professional, only 24% of the time do they hire the agent that put them in the house, right? That should hurt your feelings. But more than hurt your feelings, it should make you beg the question, why?
It's a big wake-up call here, Chris. Big wake-up call.
There's 2 reasons. One, we haven't stayed in touch, right? So they kind of feel like maybe we are no longer earning that business. And the other side of it is, and I already quoted the stat, which is home sellers want us to market the home to potential buyers. NAR does this report. They find that every year it's the same thing. They want us to market the home to potential buyers. And if they don't believe that we've got the competence to do so, they are going to hire somebody else. Like, that's just
which is exactly why my friend hired somebody else, because he didn't think I had the competence to help him market his house to a potential buyer.
Right. Well, it happens 76% of the time, Gary.
Yeah, it does. It does.
That should be a wake-up call to us. Like, if we're making the assumption that because we put them in the house, they're going to hire us to sell the house, it's a false assumption. And secondly, is not only do we lose that person, we lose their referrals, we do lose their recommendations, right? We lose all of that business that would be coming through us, which, by the way, right, 70% of the business, when it comes to home sellers, 70% of the business comes from one of 2 sources. And the largest source is referrals, recommendations, and people from our sphere of influence. and the second largest source is repeat customers. Those two things combined is 70% of the business, right? That's like almost 3 out of 4 people are
It's
going to just
huge.
go with that from that being where how they're going to choose their real estate professional, and to be losing so much of it. Because we're not demonstrating our competence and doing so in a superior, in a distinct way. Ooh, that should make us take action. That should make us take action very, very quickly. Well, we're not done yet, because we now get into the onboarding. Remember, we're going through this 5-part pre-listing packet. We've only hit on the first 2 sections. Now we have the third thing we need to zero in on. Which is to download your client welcome kit, your being that reader's client welcome kit that we've produced for them. So let me read this, Gary. It says, as a new client, you're entitled to all of the benefits my firm offers. They are outlined in your client welcome kit. You'll also find information and resources to help you move. Feel free, get this, Gary, feel free to share a copy with people you know personally.
I love that part, because then you give them the link, and then if they know of anybody thinking of needing to sell their house, what do? They'll forward their client welcome kit.
Well, I love this tool because it's something that most people don't do, because this is not a real estate idea. This is actually an idea from human resources. You guys ever work for like a big company that had an HR department, right? So there's this concept in human resources called onboarding. And onboarding refers to the practice or the process of being able to get an employee to perform, right? And how quickly you can onboard that employee to perform effectively. Well, what we're doing is we're taking that same premise and asking ourselves, how can we get a prospective client to perform and to perform effectively? And by the way, for us, that means going beyond just getting a signed listing agreement. That means that they are going to perform when it comes to recommending us, referring us, right? Being repeat customers. It means that we're going to want to make sure that they have such a great experience with us. That's part of their performance, is that they'll go through and even give us a 5-star rating or review after the fact. So with that, you're probably wondering, what the heck goes into a client welcome kit? I don't have one.
Let's talk about it.
All right. So let's dive into this bad boy. So client welcome kit, it's pretty straightforward. You can put whatever you want, but what we try to do is to educate. So much of what we're trying to do is to educate our customers, right? We're trying to educate them on not just what their experience is going to be like, but we want to educate them on how we do this uniquely, on how we're going to help them achieve the outcomes, and then on who they're hiring. So they're going to hire the person based on who they know, like, and trust us. So it's important that they know and like us. And so that's why this first section covers that information about us. But immediately we go right into education. And even though we might be working with them to sell a home, we want to make sure that they know, hey, we can help you buy a home, right? So what are the advantages? What's the education that we're going to share? What occurred to me, Gary, and just like one of the things that this has solved for you, is that as you started to pursue a career in luxury real estate, right, is that inadvertently you started to alienate the bread and butter business, right?
Yeah, I lost a lot of business initially because clients would go buy and sell real estate without me that was not luxury or may have been investment properties. Mm. And I would find out about it. I'm like, what happened here? And I would call them and say, gosh, I'm surprised, what happened? And they said, well, we didn't want to bother you because we know you only sell luxury. And at that moment, I was like, oh my goodness, here's another communication breakdown. Mm-hmm. And so what we did is we wanted to educate everybody about all of the services that we have, and it's been absolutely critical to communicate all of that with everybody about all of the services. But not just that, Chris. It's also critical to communicate our value, and we're doing that through this entire thing. We're communicating our value, we're communicating our expertise and everything that we do for them, and then they can send this to everybody else. In fact, this reminds me, Chris, the very first transaction that I ever had. It was a $500,000 house in 1997. So I was like, wow, this is huge. And so I sit down at the closing table, and it was a listing. And I was a kid. I mean, I was 22 or 23. I was a kid, and I'm making 15 grand on this. And then of course I had to give my commission split, but, I was really pumped. And I sit down at the closing table, and I'm looking at the settlement statement, and I look over at my clients, and I'm smiling because, man, I'm making a lot of money, and they're frowning because I'm making a lot of money. And the client said this to me. He said, "Wow, Gary, that's the easiest commission you'll ever make." And I was like,
Mm.
"What? How could you say that to me?" And I realized it was because I didn't communicate my value to them, and I didn't communicate all of my services and everything I was doing to them. And that was like a huge wake up call in the beginning of my career of, man, I thought my job was to protect them from all of the details and everything that happened during a transaction. And instead, no, it's to communicate everything that I'm doing for them and communicate my value. And this document, this client welcome kit, does that expertly.
Well, I think what happens in real estate, like any other service professional, is this: we get so close to what we do, we don't know how to communicate the benefit of the value that we provide.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you have a tool like a client welcome kit, what that does is it does the hard work so that people, whoever's seeing this, prospective client, or let's say they've sent this to somebody that they know, right, because they want them to work with you, and this is just an easy tool to refer you with. The why to work with you, the what's in it for me, the value that you provide is being set up for you. I think this is a skill. This is like one of those skills that's overlooked in our industry, that are in our space. I mean, for anybody who feels like maybe some pressure to negotiate on your fees, one of the ways to combat that is for you to understand exactly the value that you bring to this. In fact, we're going to share with you, I'm going to show in just a little bit, I'm going to show a few slides from Gary's listing presentation when we get into the section on mirroring your listing presentation. And you're going to see exactly how do I communicate my value. We're going to give you some scripts to be able to communicate your value.
Now, Chris, as we get through this, David just asked this question, which is pertinent to this, is when is the best time to send out the client welcome kit? This goes in that pre-listing packet email before we show up at the listing appointment. So this is going out. Now, in Q&A, by the way, David, we'll talk about some different times. I'm going to mark that as a question because that'll remind me. We'll talk about some other times you can send this to everybody in your database. So that's a really good thing.
Well, we should probably talk about real quickly, when do we send out that pre-listing packet? When do you send out your pre-listing packet email? Do you send I
send it out the day I have my initial phone consultation with them on the phone and schedule the appointment. I send that email to them because I want them to have as much time as possible to review it and also to do the homework. And we're going to talk about that now, because one thing that we do is we request our clients to complete some homework, and then we offer also a call to action for them to make sure that they do something. So, Chris, should we read this?
Yeah. In fact, let me just remind Gary, why don't you read this one? But this is that fourth simple activity that we're asking them to do in that email. And just to clarify something that Gary said about when we send this out, is that Gary says that he sends this out after he has an initial phone consultation, but before the appointment. And initial phone consultation is where Gary just gets on the phone with them, has a good 45-minute to 60-minute conversation, asking them questions, kind of learning about what their situation is, and really arming and equipping himself with the knowledge or the information that he's going to need to do so that he can show up and deliver a superior listing presentation and superior appointment. Because instead of using that as the discovery phase, right? So a lot of times, if you guys don't have an initial consultation and you just show up to the listing appointment, you spend a big chunk of that time doing discovery. You're trying to figure out what their circumstances, you're trying to figure out what their loan balance is, yada, 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 right? Well, instead, Gary does that on the phone beforehand. So then he shows up, and instead of doing discovery, he's actually describing solutions. And that speaks right to what they're looking for. That's another way to be able to show distinctive value is, hey, I'm not going to waste your time doing discovery in person. Let's do that on the phone. I'm going to show up and we're going to talk about solutions for you. Okay.
You got it.
So homework, we have a couple of things that we need them to do. And why do we ask them to do homework, Gary?
Well, so there's this concept of time spent with a client, and the more time you can have a client spend working on things that you send them and kind of already participating in a relationship with you, the less likely they are to want to do that with somebody else. So they'll be like, I don't want to do this again. We'll just do this one time and we'll meet with Gary and hire him. So that's the time spent concept. And the homework email or the homework section goes like this. Homework number one. Please reply to this email sharing your home's best features, improvements, and selling points. I will use this to create compelling marketing to attract buyers.
Mhm.
Homework number 2. Please reach out to your lender to get the current loan balance. We will use this information to calculate what you'll net from your home sale after we assess your home's pricing strategy. If you have any questions prior to our appointment, please let us know. Thanks. PS. This is critical. I
Mm.
asked Chris, I'm like, dude, why are we sending a PS? Like, I think we got him all the value. Chris, why is a PS so critical here?
Well, I mean, oftentimes in an email that people are scanning, right? We're all time starved. So even though we're going to send this out and they're going to scan through it. And by the way, if they don't watch the videos, if they don't look at any of the stuff, okay, that's fine. I mean, like you can't control everything, but let's put like the thing that's going to make us stand out the most in this whole thing is check out that property marketing plan. So a lot of times, according to research, the thing that people will remember or focus on the most in many communications is the PS, right? So if someone's scanning through it, they see the PS, and hopefully you've done a really good job at being able to summarize what that email is about. And what we've chosen to do is to put that property marketing plan as the emphasis. If you click on one thing, click on this, because it's how we sell homes for above the competition's average performance. So
But
what
it's
we're
not
doing,
only that, Chris. We're not just asking them to click on that, right? Because there's a
oh,
PS to the PS.
Oh, feel free to share it with anybody you're thinking of moving. But here, like, look at what's happening here subtly. Well, not so subtly. What we're doing is we've stated, right, distinctive value. We didn't have to like overtly say it. We say, hey, property marketing plan, click on this. I use this to sell homes for well above the competition's average performance, right? So what we've done is we've bottom lined what we're going to do. We outperform the competition. This is the tool that we do it. Click here, right? So that is why I'm like, when this has been, I personally wrote this using like copywriting methods so that this thing would work. And that's exactly why I've chosen the language that I have with this. And with that, Gary, like that's the pre-listing packet. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the pre-listing packet email.
Yeah, that's the full email with links and everything. But what happens when we actually show up to the appointment, right?
Well, here's the thing. If you just send out the pre-listing packet and you do not mirror the promises, right, the assumptions that were built into it in your actual listing presentation, then all of a sudden you've actually broken the stream of communication, the stream of promise making, the stream of building that distinctive value, that stream of being able to build trust. You've unconsciously in their mind broken it by talking about these things and then never addressing it in your listing presentation. So what I've done is I've put together just a few of the slides from Gary's listing presentation so that you guys will know what to say. In fact, I think we can use this as an opportunity for a little bit of role playing, Gary. We can have some fun with this. We can give some folks some scripts to utilize. Remember, we were talking about what are the precepts for this pre-listing packet? Well, we want to make sure that we're standing out. So your listing presentation, by the way, the actual template and slides that you use and discuss are a way for you to stand out. The conversation that you have is a way for you to stand out. What else do we want? We want to build trust. So this is a way to build trust, right? And then last but not least, we want to, the last one was to set up the listing presentation. Now we're going to deliver it. So I think, Gary, before we dive into the first of the slides,
okay,
let's do a little poll here. I'm curious to know how many of you are actually using a structured listing presentation for your listing appointment versus how many of you are just kind of winging it.
Chris, what I did is I knew you were going to ask this, so I created a poll. So everybody head over to the chat section. The question is, do you just wing your listing presentation or do you have a detailed structure to it? Let us know the answer to that question. The poll is up there now.
Excellent. And while you guys are responding that, we're going to dive in. This is not the first slide, but it's the first slide we're going to share from Gary's listing presentation. This one's really, really important because what it does. All right. So, and Gary, I'm going to ask you to role play with this and show everybody exactly the words that you use. But what this is going to do is it's going to show people the distinct value in terms of dollars and cents that they are going to benefit in hiring us versus hiring, another firm. Okay. So Gary, actually, maybe we should respond to that poll real quick. How many people? It's about half and half.
About 50-50 roughly.
Yeah.
About 50-50.
So, but at least it's leaning a little bit more towards people who do not wing their listing presentation, which this is cool because if you already have a structured approach, you'll be able to just take one of these ideas, one of these scripts, maybe one of these slides and plug it into what you're doing to get an improved result. For those of you who don't have and you are winging your listing presentation, take some copious notes here because you're going to want to use something like this to improve your performance. So how do we talk about this particular slide, Gary?
Okay, so number one, I just want to give everybody a little bit of tip here. I always ask a question at the beginning of every slide. And so this, I'm going to take you through. Chris, just role play with me here, okay? So Chris, do you like statistics?
They don't lie.
They don't lie. You know what? I like that answer. And also, I love statistics, specifically these statistics, because it shows how well my firm is outperforming the marketplace, and specifically what this means to you. So if you don't mind, let's take a look at that, Chris. So now, currently in Austin, homes are selling in about 48 days. Now, Chris, I can tell you that's really good for sellers. That's pretty good. So the average home with the average realtor is selling in about 48 days. Now, when you hire me and my firm, our homes on average are selling in 16 days. Now, that's a lot faster, isn't it?
A lot faster.
A lot faster. Also, let's talk about how much homes sell for. On average in Austin, an average house is selling for 98.25% of ask price. Now, I can tell you with 23 years of experience, Chris, that's a really good statistic. However, when you hire us at Kreth Partners, what I can share with you is on average, we're selling homes for 101.7% of asking price. Now, let me share with you what that actually means to you, because that is actually on average 3.45% more than our competition. Now, let's assume that we sell your house for $525,000. On average, what that means is we're going to earn you $18,112.50 more than the competition. Now, I don't know about you, Chris. To me, that's a lot of money.
Wow. So that right there, that was the thing. I don't know that you guys saw what he did is Gary took statistics and then turned that into concrete numbers to me, right? Yeah. By taking the statistic, applying it to, right? He also planted the seed of what the list price should be, right? He planted the seed. We haven't had the conversation yet about what what market value is, but he's planted the seed of what market value is. And he's created a concrete number so that people all of a sudden, when they're asking what's in it for me, right? They may not ask you this overtly, but they're looking at, well, Gary outperforms the market. By the way, outperforming the market, isn't that distinctive value, right? Like, in fact, isn't that a demonstration of your competence that you're going to outperform the market?
That is absolutely that. And that, Chris, you want to talk about reputation building. Like the two things that sellers want from you is they want to know how fast and for how much are you going to sell our house. Boy, I just showed you how much more you're going to earn. And so, man, and by the way, I then take this phone, I set it between us for the rest of the appointment with that number right there. And they never forget, this is why we need to hire Gary.
All right. So that's just one of them. Now, remember, what we're doing here is we're actually starting to build this promise. Like, so when you make this, when you show and have this conversation with people and you're saying, hey, I've outperformed the market. Okay, what we're doing is we're making a promise. We're making a promise. We're making a claim of what we can do for this client. Now, immediately, here's what happens immediately in their mind. Now, they may not ask you this, but they are going to start to process, how are you going to do that? If you make a claim of your performance, how are you going to do it? Conversely, what history do you have in doing that? So one of the things we need to arm their rational mind with, right? So people are going to make a decision. People are going to lean one way or another through the emotion, through the heart, but they're going to use their mind to start to rationalize around and to be able to justify what they're feeling. So all of a sudden, they're liking you, they're knowing, they're liking, and they're trusting you, and you start to equip them. All of a sudden, they're looking at, oh yeah, Gary's really good. He's really competent. By the way, what we're doing here is also feeding them language to refer and recommend us with, right? So inevitably, when they go back to the office the next day and they say, hey, we just put our home on the market, right? And they're like, oh, you are? We've been thinking to do it. Oh, you really got to hire Gary, because Gary's like, I mean, Yeah, they're not going to remember the stats, obviously, but they're like, Gary does like way better than like his competition. You definitely need to hire Gary. I mean, he's got like, we're going to make 18 grand more than, we hire somebody else. Like,
Yeah, and by the way, I want to clarify with everybody, these are our brokerage or our team numbers. They're not just my numbers. So
yeah.
if your question is, what if my numbers aren't better than the average, then I'd say you need to change brokers.
Yeah, here's the thing. If you're, there's a lot of ways to dive into this number. You can do it by neighborhood. You could do it by niche. Here's the thing. Like if you were to take, let's say, like Gary, you focus on the luxury market. Your numbers might be worse than the average of if you're including homes that are in the entry level, right? And then you're also the luxury homes take longer to sell. And so what you do is you chop off that section of the market where you apply a focus, and that's what you're going to gauge your performance. But like I said, we want to then give people the why. And now what we need to do is refer back to that property marketing plan that we sent in that pre-listing packet and just have a conversation about the marketing that we're going to do. And these are slides in the listing presentation, which just prompts us. Gary, at this point, how do you refer back to the property marketing plan when you are having that conversation with them?
Well, so what I'll do is, we'll talk about those numbers and I'll say, do you have any other questions, or shall we move on to exactly how we do that? And then they say, no, let's talk about how you do that. I say, great. Were you able to review our property marketing plan? And I'll just pull up these slides. And if they said, yeah, we reviewed it, I would say, great. I just want to confirm that that this is where we're going to be marketing and advertising your home to get the greatest amount of exposure. Do you have any questions about exactly how we're doing that? And they'll say, no, everything's pretty clear. I'm like, great, let's move on.
It's really great having that property marketing plan do all of the hard work. And now you're just touching back to it, right? And you know what? Here's what I found. Every now and then you're going to encounter that engineering type that's going to be like, yes, I read your property marketing plan in great detail. Now I am curious about how you're going to do this, that, and the other. And you're like, well, let's take a look at that property marketing plan. Let me explain to you how we're going to do this, that, and the other. 1 out of 10 times that might happen, right? So it's very rare. It happens a little bit more in Austin because we have like such a tech-centric audience, and we have a lot of people in technology, so we got a lot of geeks out here. Okay, what are we going to do about that? So instead of like 1 out of 10 times, it might happen 2 or 3 out of 10 times here in Austin. But here's the thing: most of the time, though, there's been so much trust built by this point with you that they're not really worried about this part of it. They're like, Gary's got this covered. Gary's got this covered. Remember, when we work to build trust, when we have our reputation stand out, when we've given them a reason to hire us through distinct value, like they're going to place a premium on our expertise. At this point, they want to hire us because they believe we can produce the result for them. And so now we start to, we're just making it easy for them to participate with us. So I've got a question for y'all who are joining us today. And would you like access to the templates to today's training? Because if you do, and let me just recap what those templates are. We've got our listing presentation template, which we normally sell for $967. We also have our client welcome kit template, which we sell for $597. And so if you would like these templates, I'm going to make a special offer to you guys, which you can get these templates for free. These are downloadable templates that you can customize and make your own. You can get them for free when you join our marketing club. All right. Now, our marketing club is a membership that Gary and I created to be able to help you stand out and get recognized for your expertise using tools, technology, and marketing. Just like the tools that we shared with you today, just like the marketing tools that we shared with you today, this is what we've created. Our marketing club is to help you stand out and get recognized. We've got so many of our clients who shared great success stories with us. We've got Cynthia, who said, Paperless Agent is incredible. I've been a member since 2015. And if you're new to real estate, save yourself money and time and go no further. Paperless Agent is the most valuable real estate and resources, hands down. Lisa told us that when I was a brand new agent in November 2013, I discovered the Paperless Agent, and they're the best. I credit much of my 6-figure success to them. Well, thank you, Lisa, for sharing that story. So our club is designed to help you get clients on demand. It's designed to help you have consistent, predictable income. It's designed to help you have systems to replicate leads and save time. Our club's going to help you get recognized for your great service and ultimately have clients place a premium on your expertise. In fact, Teresa, who's a longtime club member, says, I want to say a huge thank you to the Paperless Agent team. Thanks, Gary, Jordan, and Chris, and the whole team behind the scenes. We actually tripled our income in 2017 over 2016. They had joined in December of 2016. We sold over $9 million, all because we followed the paperless agent plan. And so she went on to say a few more nice things about us, but you might be wondering, what is this plan that the paperless agent is offering? Well, we have our 5-step career acceleration plan that our club is designed to walk you through. So we provide you with the education, the tools, and resources to walk you through this 5-step plan so that you can have and reach your career potential, right? So the first thing we're going to do is work with you to produce a powerful online presence. The next thing we're going to do is to help you market to your base, right? Because we need to have a powerful online presence before we can start marketing to our base to be able to build a surplus of business so we're not turning business away inadvertently. So after building that powerful online presence and we start marketing to our base, we need to make sure we ace every listing appointment. Now, Gary and I have shared with you some strategies today and even some templates and tools today to be able to help you ace every listing appointment. But really, by focusing on acing every listing appointment, what we want you to do is to focus on building a listing business, right? It is far more scalable to have that listing business. And so much of what we provide resources and education around in our membership in the club is about building up that listing business, which requires skill around marketing, skill around persuasion, right? Skill in operations and how you can handle lots of customers and how to handle lots of listings. And then what we do is help you scale and replicate leads on demand. Once you've got a steady flow and a surplus, what we want to do is put the amplifiers on it, because what we found is that once you get to a level of business, what you're going to want to do is start trading, right? You're going to want to trade some time you're going to use money and resources and tools to be able to buy some of your time back, right? And so that's why we start to do lead generation with tools like Facebook, with tools like Google, with tools like the other options that are available. And then last but not least, we want to put your practice on autopilot. Now, this is not a process that you're going to do in a day or in a week, but over time, as you work through this career acceleration plan, we're going to help you reach that potential so that you can actually start getting more time back and start doing more of what you want. Our club's going to give you a couple of different benefits, right? Or a couple of different features. One is we provide you with new training topics every single month. We talk about listings, we talk about marketing, we talk about social media, we talk about productivities, right? So when you join the club, we've got new training topics for you to use every single month. We also give you a new marketing campaign template or templates every single month that you can use to be able to find more of those listing opportunities for you to generate more listing leads. We give you blog posts, marketing emails, social media posts, marketing and ad templates, and a whole bunch more every single month. In fact, Teresa says, thanks, Jordan. Jordan's our person on our team who produces those resources for our members. He says, thanks, Jordan, for another great campaign. I just sent out to my email contacts and had a great open rate. But not only that, after sending the marketing out, within 20 minutes of sending it, received a listing appointment request. So Teresa's using the marketing materials that we provided with, sent it out, and got a listing appointment request. And that is the common experience. We also provide you with a Google-friendly website, a marketing website, so you always look good online. We post blogs on there automatically every single month for you, so you always look good and you don't have to worry about maintaining it. You can always add property landing pages if you want to market listings, or additional pages for lead generation, and for you to be able to implement the different campaigns that we provide you the templates and resources to do so. You're also going to have access to our resource library, where there's tutorials, instructional videos, implementation plans, how-to guides, and a whole lot more. Teresa says, guys, you made me a rock star. I've been in the business since 1992 and never had a plan I could faithfully follow that works. Can't thank you enough and love the new book. Todd says, I've been an agent for 20 years and nothing else compares to what you guys provide. If an agent can't use your resource to make it happen for them, they need to go do something else. Well, thanks for that vote of confidence, Todd. You're probably wondering, how much is this all going to cost me? Well, you'd spend literally hundreds of dollars every single month if you were to go out and find yourself marketing materials, if you were to go out and get yourself a website, for you to get ongoing quality training and education, getting recognized in your marketplace. All of these things would cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month, but you can join our club and you'll be able to get these templates as bonus gifts for only $67 today. Now, it is a membership, so it's $67 a month, but you can easily cancel, hassle-free, no questions asked. There's no contract, there's no commitment. It's month to month, so you can cancel at any time. There's no minimum time that you have to be in it. I mean, heck, if you wanted to, you could download the stuff and cancel the next day. You'll hurt my feelings, but I understand that might be somebody who's saying, hey, that's what I'm going to do. Well, hopefully you'll be more like Tracy, who says this resource is so chock full at the crazy best price, no hidden fees, invest in yourself and your business now. Don't wait, or my 8 years wasted a lot of money elsewhere. My best investment to date. Thank you, Tracy. And when you sign up for the club today, I'm going to give you one extra bonus gift. It is that property marketing plan template that I shared with you earlier. So you can show your listing prospects how you stand out in the market as that listing expert agent. Property marketing plan template is going to make it easy for you to have a new and improved plan that you can use to communicate with your customers, with your prospective sellers, not only on how you're going to market the home, but ultimately on that underlying distinctive value proposition. It's going to make you look like a listing expert agent just by having this and sharing this as part of your pre-listing packet process. Heck, I would even recommend sending this out to your database a couple of times a year, just letting them know that you've updated your property marketing plan, and that if they know of anybody who's thinking of moving and needs help, that you can share this marketing plan with them and that you'd be happy to help them. So just to recap everything that you're going to get today, you're going to get our listing presentation template. And by the way, today we only had enough time to cover a few of them. I think there's 20 some different parts, slides to Gary's listing presentation template. You'll get the template, you get the scripts for each one of those parts to the listing presentation template. Our client welcome kit template, so you can modify that onboarding document, make that your own, and start educating your prospects and your customers on how to perform as customers. And then also the property marketing plan template. You're going to get all those things when you join our club for only $67 a month. To sign up, all you got to do is click on that turquoise button that has probably popped up at some point.
Yep. I did pop it up, Chris.
And with that, guys, I encourage you to just get it taken care of. Sign up real quick while we're here before we dive too far into the Q&A and the day gets away from you and you miss out on the opportunity to get some of these really cool resources. Here's what I know is that for those of you who want to stand out as that listing expert agent, like the majority of you said that you wanted to, is that having the right tools, right? Having the right knowledge, having the right know-how, the right practical know-how is what makes you a listing expert agent. So when you start using a listing presentation like this, when you start using client welcome kits, when you start using property marketing plans, heck, when you start using that pre-listing packet process or that pre-listing packet template that we were sharing with you, by doing the activities, therefore, that makes you that individual, right? By doing the stuff, you therefore transform into that listing expert agent. The listing expert agent is the individual who's doing that stuff, who's getting recognized in their marketplace because of the activities, because of the skills, because of the know-how that they have and the actions that they're taking, like using a listing presentation template, like sharing that client welcome kit template, like communicating distinctively the value proposition that I am in the marketplace, right? This is what I do for you. So, Gary, I want to dive into Q&A, and I want to dive into as many questions as we possibly can. I just wanted to
I want to let everybody know that I just put that over there in the chat section. It's that blue button. What you need to do is click on that link, and it should take you directly. If it does not, I think Patricia just said, oh, she's having internet issues. Got it. Patricia, take that link, copy it, put it into your browser, and it should work for you. So Kim just said join club is not working. It just worked for me. Kim, I just put the link into the chat section. It's a much longer link. So try that one and see if that works for you. If not, copy that link that I just put in the chat section and put it into your browser and get started like that.
If you're watching this and you click on the button, it may not work if you have like some pop-up blockers and stuff like that, right? So if you have like ad pop-up blockers, it might prevent you from popping up. So just open up a new tab, copy and paste.
Kelly just said it worked for them. So that's
like I said, sometimes people have pop-up blockers and it might be your browser preventing it from popping up. Just open up a new tab, copy it in there. Here's what I would say is that, gosh, I always love being out on the road from time to time. You know me, I like to stay home a lot, but I went to the National Association of Realtors Expo and Conference, and it was great because I got to have so many wonderful conversations. And one of the things that really, it actually kind of pained me a little bit was, if I'll give you an example, I was sitting in this one presentation and they were talking about iBuyers of all things, right? Like right? They're talking about iBuyers. And I kid you not, the people on the panel made it sound like it was the end of the world. Like they had a different way of saying it was the end of the world for us in real estate. But ultimately it was like, this is the end of the world, and I was like, man, if everyone could just know the value that you bring to the table, that you are, that this would not be a conversation that we would be taking so seriously. Now, granted, I know in some markets it's a problem. In fact, we had interviewed one of our members and he had shared his best practices. He's been in Phoenix and he's been working with those folks. But at the end of the day, you know what he told me? He was like, as real estate professionals, we need to know what our value is in the transaction. And we need to get dang good at being able to communicate that with people at all times. Because when we know what our value is, we can look at anything. We can look at our competition. We can look at iBuyers. We could look at all the dynamics changing in the marketplace, whether it's too much, too little inventory, too much inventory, all of these things. He said, when we understand that value that we bring to the table and we know how to communicate effectively, everything else starts to melt back into the background, right? Because also with knowing that value comes the confidence, right? And all of a sudden you get to show up and you are far more confident. And that confidence it's almost like intoxicating for clients and prospects, right? Because they look at it and they're like, Gary knows what he's talking about. You know what? I'm just going to trust that you're going to take good care of me. And that's ultimately what we want. And here's the thing, we talk about the convenience factor. When they believe that they can trust us to just take good care of me, they pay a premium for that. They're willing and want to pay a premium for it. It's why that's why Gary doesn't have to, finagle over his fees, and he doesn't feel like he has to cave into the pressure on that. So with that, Gary, we should probably get into Q&A because I end up chatting all
Kim
day.
just had a question, said, I just tried to join, but it states that you can only cancel within the first 30 days of starting the program. That's not true. I have no idea where you're seeing that or misreading that. But here's the thing. I'm going to answer Mary Harris's question, which will answer Kim's question.
Right.
Mary says, is there an annual commitment to the marketing club or a one-time fee of it is $67 a month. You have no commitment. There is no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So You can do that at any time. And then Oshi says, is there some other tier we would need to also buy to complete everything, or is this it? Yoshi, you're getting it all here. You're getting our listing presentation. You're getting the 8-week marketing plan. And Chris, you just went off the slides. I lost it.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say what Tracy said. She says, this resource is so chock full at the crazy best price, no hidden fees. Like, look, it's $67. You're getting everything for $67 a month. $67 a month. You can cancel at any time.
And go do it. You got it.
Trust Todd, trust these other folks. They said it, not us. So I'm just reading what they're telling you, what they're sharing, the feedback that they've given. So yes, you're going to get the listing presentation templates, the client welcome kit templates, the property marketing plan templates. Those are just gifts that you're going to get when you sign up for the club today. When you sign up for the club, you're going to get training, you're going to get marketing materials, you're going to get a website, you're going to get everything you need to be able to generate a surplus of customers, a surplus of listing leads. And so I encourage you to get that done. And with that, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Let's get some more questions here, Chris. Karen says, I'm not very tech savvy. Will this work for me?
Here's what I'm going to say is that what we're looking like tech savvy, will this work for me? Here's what I say. Do you want to have success as a real estate professional? Do you want to be able to reach your potential as a real estate professional? Here's what we're going to find is that sometimes there might be a skill that's required that we need, and other times it might be knowledge or practical know-how that we need. And so, is this overly tech emphasized? No, not. To be able to use this listing presentation, all you need to be able to do is like open up a PowerPoint. To use the client welcome kit, you just got to open up a PowerPoint, right? Can you open up a Word document? Right? Yes, I know you can open up a Word document. Heck, I know you can use the internet to go into the MLS and do stuff, right? So what we're not asking you to do is get all crazy and have to spend so much time getting and developing technical expertise. We've taken that hard work and heavy lifting out of the equation for you. What we want you to be able to do is focus on acquiring the necessary skills, right? And so there might be some things where it's like, oh yeah, you do have to go in there and change in the listing presentation, take out Gary and my picture out of the template. I'm just going to let you know there's one in the template. There's a photo of me and Gary. You should delete that. You should probably delete our logo too, just as a suggestion and recommendation. But here's the thing: that's easy to do. I know you guys can edit Word documents, PowerPoint documents. These things have been around for decades now, so I know you guys can operate those. We're not going to ask you to do anything too crazy. Now, I will say this, right? As you develop in your progression of skill and knowledge, what you're going to find is that some of those things you're going to look at, oh, maybe I do. You're going to, at some point in the future, you're going to tell yourself, I want to do some more stuff on Facebook, right? You're going to get to where you've got a surplus and you're going to say, I want to get more of a surplus. In fact, I'd like to have such a surplus. Maybe I'm starting to refer business out. Maybe I'm going to grow a team, whatever you're going to do. At that point, you might say, all right, well, I do want to add this level of skill. And and here's what I'm going to ask you to reprogram this. Instead of saying that I'm not a tech savvy person, instead of saying that, is say I am learning, I am acquiring technical skill, right? Because that's all it is. Don't use a fixed mindset to say that you either are technical or not technical. All it is skill, right? So, I mean, all of us started somewhere. I remember there was a time, in fact, Gary, we first started training was how to use like your iPad in real estate. Well, people no longer really need training on how to use their mobile device. Like we all get it. We know how to use apps. We know how to do this stuff. But there was a time when all of us were not educated in how to use some of the things that we take for granted today. Well, what I'm going to suggest is instead of using that fixed mindset, of saying, I'm just not good at that. I was just not born with that technical skill, is to change that thinking. Use that growth mindset to say, you know what? I am learning to use Facebook. I am learning to use PowerPoint. I am learning to, use some of these technical things. So reprogram that. It's just like it's just like with this is something that I learned, like a parenting tip that I had learned, is that whenever your kids come to you and say that, hey, I'm really nervous and I'm anxious about XYZ, right? So imagine, hey, I'm really nervous about this upcoming listing presentation, or I'm really anxious about having to record videos for my business, is instead of saying I'm nervous, instead of saying I'm anxious, is to reprogram your language and say, I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited for that listing appointment. I'm excited to do that video, right? And so like, am I nervous and anxious about going on a roller coaster? Yeah, I am. But am I excited about it as well? Yeah. And I'm going to choose excitement because it makes it fun. So choose the language that very purposefully. So when it comes to being technically savvy, choose your language of being, hey, I'm just acquiring some new skills here. And some of these are going to be technical. Some of these are marketing skills. Some of these are persuasive and sales skills. Some of these are operational. I mean, when you get down into a property marketing plan, I mean, heck, that's just an operational thing. You get to choose what you're going to put in there and how you're going to deliver a superior service to your customer. That's operational.
All right. Lots more questions here, Chris. We're going to rock through just a few easy ones. Sashi says, I know you're in Texas. Will this work in California? Yes. And in fact, you probably received an invitation to attend this webinar from the California Association of Realtors, because we work with them to bring you this training. And so, yes, everything that we do works in California, it works in every single state, and it works in Canada, which another question Christopher said, is this $67 USD or Canada? This is $67 USD per month. And so that's what that is. And Ben says, are there any other fees involved other than the monthly fee? Nope, Ben, it's $67 a month. And here's the thing. When you join today, if we ever choose to increase that fee, you are grandfathered or grandmothered into that $67. We will never raise that price for you.
Hey, Gary, I have a question. I know we're answering other people's questions. I have a question now. Is that okay if I ask a question?
You can ask a question.
So here's my question. A lot of people are asking about whether there's these hidden fees. Is that like a common thing? Is that a thing out there?
It's not a thing that I've seen out in education and clubs like this, but I think here's what I think it is, Chris. I believe that if you go and try and find what we are offering elsewhere, it's going to cost hundreds of dollars a month. And so I think that's where the red flags come up. It's like, okay, what's the catch?
Why is there so much in there, right? I totally get that, because when I think, and if I put our real estate hat on and I think about all of the darn fees that we have to pay for every, and we got these things here and this thing here and this thing here. We have a lot of fees that we have to pay. So I guess when I put my real estate hat on and look at what we have to offer, it's kind of surprising that it's only $67 a month. But hey, what we wanted to do and what we strive to do in all of our programs and everything that we want to make for you guys is to make it accessible. We believe that the more people we can influence, the more of you guys out there who acquire the skill, acquire the knowledge, that ultimately we're doing a service, a good service for our profession and industry at large, right? I mean, how many of you guys would like to change the way people view our industry, change the way they view our reputation and our profession? I know I do. Right? I want to be able to say I'm in real estate, and for people to be like, oh, dang, you're in real estate. I don't want to be saying I'm in real estate and all of a sudden be like, hey, man, I'm in real estate. You know what I'm saying? I want to be able to be proud of that. And I know that the more folks that we can make this accessible to, if we equip you guys with the tools to be able to stand out as listing expert agents, I know that's going to raise how people perceive all of us, right? And that's a good thing. By the way, that's a good thing. It's a good thing when we are out there representing, we're seen as listing expert agents. We have that reputation. We have, we're standing out in our marketplaces. And by the way, when you join, you are a member and you're part of an organization where you've got thousands of folks just like you. In fact, we've got a private Facebook group, right? We've got a private Facebook group that you can join and you can interact with other members and ask questions. And we're all working towards the same objectives, right? We're all trying to stand out uniquely in our marketplace. We're all trying to I don't know about you guys, but I'm constantly looking for listing leads and how to build up our listing business, just like you. That's one of the things that we're trying to do as well. And you're not alone. We're not alone. I mean, it's amazing how, as a member, you're going to find that there's a lot of people out there. I saw a really cool conversation happening in the private Facebook group just the other day, Gary. People were sharing a document that they were going to use to be able to refer each other. They could just join a referral list that our own community was organizing. We weren't doing it, by the way. Our own community of members and advocates were getting people onto the list. Hey, where are you at? And they were creating this referral list. You know what? There's other things out there. I've seen people try to charge money for that. Right? Like I've seen there's organizations that you can join to be part of a referral list, and our members are championing that because we're like-minded, right? We're all trying to reach our career potential. We're all trying to acquire that skill. We're all trying to stand out as listing expert agents. And so you're with that like-minded group of people. They're wanting to refer each other, and we're just like, go for it. Because I saw that while I was at National Association of Realtors, Gary, when I was surfing through the thing, and I got really excited. I was like, what? I'm really glad. I can't remember if it was Mary England or was it Carol Grant. Somebody was championing that effort, and I was like, good for them.
Well, that's what I love about our community, and I think that's one of the things that, as we're out and about and speaking at different events and when we meet different members of the club, one thing that keeps coming up is we all love being part of this community of like-minded people. And so, man, to be able to have that community across North America is really powerful.
Well, it's the law of association, right? So if you want to perform better, hang out with people who are performing above you, right? And I think in real estate, that gets a little tough, right? Like, especially in your local market, it gets hard because we kind of see the other folks as, and they see us as a bit of competition. So it's harder to elevate locally or to be able to hang around those higher performers locally. But when you join a club like this, where we're all over the world, right, now all of a sudden you can connect with and get that association with people who are performing at a higher level to raise your own skill, to raise your own knowledge up. Lots of times I'll go in there and I'll see people asking questions on everything from, hey, I got this situation at the office that I kind of got myself into, or, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to do X, Y, Z. And people are there to be able to share. And they're very generous with their knowledge and experience.
Yeah. All right. So we've got a lot more questions. Ben, we're going to get to your question right now. By the way, as we get to these other questions, if you have not clicked on that link and you have not really done yourself a favor and joined our club today, do it right now. It's $67 a month. You're going to get so much value out of everything. You're going to get our listing presentation templates, our client welcome kit templates, and the property marketing plan templates. And you're going to get that pre-listing packet email that we send out. You're going to get all of this. So make sure you go click on that join club now. And plus, you also get 2 amazing member training sessions every single month. And you also get, we'll talk about this in a second, there's a lot of additional training in there. And Ben, that's why we're going to answer your question right now. Ben says, does any of the training address getting the listing appointment, meaning scripts for calling prospects, etc.? Ben, oh my goodness. The training addresses everything that we are doing in real estate. I mean, you are going to get, Ben, every single month, a marketing email to send out to everybody in your database that creates a context for a conversation, creates an ability for you to call people and have those conversations. We even give you scripts and dialogues of what to say when you follow up with people after you send those emails out. And man, you want to talk about getting those listings, appointments? When you stay in touch consistently with really good content every single month, it's going to blow your mind that if you just do this religiously every single month, it's going to change your business. And in fact, we have one member, her name is Hillary, and Hillary was plateaued in her business at $3 million a year. Well, man, she started religiously sending this out every single month, and her business went to $36 million a year. She went from 3 million a year to 3 million a month.
Wow.
So Ben, that's my answer there.
Yeah. We've got not only training, but also the tools and templates to help you produce those listing leads. It's been a hot topic lately. So we've done a lot of training and provided a lot of resources around that very thing. I think listing leads in most markets is a priority because listing inventory is low. So what we want, we're all looking for it. And what we've done is we've created a 5-step process. The 5 simple steps that you can do in about 2 or 3 hours a month. And it's a system, it's a marketing system that you just complete these 5 steps every single month. And just like Teresa shared, where she sent the marketing out and got a listing appointment request within 20 minutes of sending out. That's what that stuff is designed to do, right? But you just got to do those things, and you'd be surprised. Getting listing leads in the beginning seems like hard for those of you who are more experienced, you know what we're talking about. When you market consistently, when you're saying the right things and you're saying it to the right people on a consistent basis, the opportunity seems to fall out of the sky. But it's not really falling out of the sky. It's just that's what sales work looks like. That's what persuasive work looks like. That's what it looks like to attract and bring customers to you. But when you first start doing it, it's kind of like, wow, I can't believe that works. I'm always surprised by it. I always find it fun. I have a laugh for myself whenever I see somebody in the private Facebook group saying, I sent this out and I got a customer. It's like, well, of course you did. That's how this stuff works. But the first time you're doing it, and it's a lot of it's because we're not really trained. No one really tells us how to go out and get clients. A lot of times I think the common experience when people get into real estate is you get in there and you might you tell everybody you got your license and you're really excited and you talk about it a lot. And so you might have like a good first year, and then into the second year, you've kind of run through all those opportunities. And then you're like, now what? Well, at this point, this is where the knowledge is required on how to find a customer. Finding a customer is paramount. We don't get to have a listing presentation, send client welcome kits, use a property marketing plan without having that client first. And so we made that a priority in our own training program, in our own tools that we provide with everybody. Is here's how you acquire this customer. Here's what you need to acquire the customer. Here are the steps that you do to acquire the customer. And here's what you do consistently to produce those customers consistently. And I think when we do that, when we know what that is and when we do it well, then all of a sudden finding customers isn't the problem. I know if finding customers is a problem to you right now, it seems like, well, that seems like it's always the problem. No, I could share with you stories like from Christopher Dean. He's one of our members, and he's on the Monica Foster team out of Houston. They're actually the number 4 team in Houston last year. They sold, I think, $92 million. And in my conversations with him, he's always looking for ways to find customers, but that's not like the dominating thing. He's all about how to streamline my operation. How do I connect the apps and the tools and the scripts and the processes? And it's a different level conversation. Why? Because he's not as concerned about finding the customer. He would always like to get a few more, but the priority is streamlining so he can handle more of them. Right, he becomes his own bottleneck. His team, the way their operations work, they hinder their ability to get more clients. And so when it might seem like right now, oh gosh, it would be great to have that problem. You'll have other problems, but that's you have Christopher Dean problems, right? Because you're selling $92 million of real estate in a year, and so you need to work on your operation. But which, by the way, that's why we focus on helping you grow a listing business. You need to be able to scale, right? You got to be able to scale. It starts with little things like having a better listing presentation, like having a client welcome kit, like having a property marketing plan. But then it goes into, how do I handle, multiple listings? How do I handle, like Gary, 50 listings at a time? How am I going on 6 listing appointments a week, but still keeping my sanity, right? Like those become the issues once you have a surplus of clients, which producing the surplus is easy. You get the content consistency, you get the clients, right? Gary, you get that 3C equation: content consistency equals clients.
Yeah.
You get that going consistently for 3, 4, or 5 months. All of a sudden, your set of problems is, how do I keep my sanity? Right? Your set of problems is which is why, remember, we talked about the 5-step program, the five steps for accelerating your career. Right? Powerful online presence, marketing to your base, acing every listing appointment, scale and replicating leads on demand. That last one becomes critical. Putting your practice on autopilot. What that means is I get to keep my sanity, that you're not working 80 hours a week, right? So you've got to put parts of your practice on autopilot. Otherwise, you will go insane, right? You'll have like a great year, and then next year people are like, whatever happened to Gary? You've hit burnout before, right, in your career, Gary?
I was actually responding to a post earlier today about burnout, and I used to actually burn out about every 3 months. And what I did is I had to get systems in place, and I had to get consistency in my life, and I had to set boundaries with my clients, which essentially changed my entire life and changed my business. And so by doing this, you get control over your business. You get control over your income, and you get control over your life. And so, one of the funniest things I ever hear is, gosh, why did you get into real estate? Most people are like, well, I wanted to control my own time. And I'm like, yeah, me too. I wanted to control which 80 hours a week I work. and that's the thing, is that we don't have to do that. And the power of this community is that it allows you to learn not just from us, but the thousands and thousands. How many people are in our Facebook group right now, Chris?
Well, because our policy is once a member, always a member of the group, even if you're not an active member, I think we've got like close to 10,000 people in that Facebook group.
And you're gonna get in there. You're gonna learn from us. We're in there all the time. So do yourself a favor right now. Go join the club now, because we've got a lot more questions to get to. Chris. Seth was asking, is there information on how to hold a more effective open house? Yeah, we actually have an open house strategy. We talk about that. We train about that. When you join today, you're going to go to log in. You're going to go log in at thepaperlessagent.com, and up at the top it says log in. By the way, somebody said, Crystal said, how long will it take to be able to log in? It still won't recognize me. So here's what you need to do. When you click on Join Club Now, and by the way, I'm going to give everybody that link one more time over in the chat section. You're going to go sign up, and then you're going to get an email instantly into your inbox. Now, if for some reason it does not show up into your inbox, it's probably hanging out in your spam folder. And if for some reason it just kind of disappeared into your email system somewhere, you can always email our support team. It's support@thepaperlessagent.com, and they'll get you hooked up today. So go do that, and then.
Can you answer Ben's question about PayPal? We actually, the PayPal thing, even though it shows it's been disabled, we don't have the PayPal ability there.
Yeah, we don't work with PayPal. So you just need to use your credit or debit card. Let's see. Next question is, Kelly said, I joined the club today. How will I get access to the templates? You will receive an email. And when you log in, you're going to have a dashboard with a lot of different cards up there. And so you'll be able to access that today. And you can literally download these templates today and use them tomorrow. In fact, Chris, I love this story. We had a client out in California who attended one of our presentations on a Thursday, joined, downloaded the listing presentation template, modified it Thursday night, went on a listing appointment on Friday, and it was a luxury home that he's never listed a luxury home before. They were so blown away by what he prepared and shared with them. He got the listing, and he was competing against the number one agent in that neighborhood. So can you do it? He did it in a day. So you can do that too. And Saki says, templates be converted to Pages and Keynote? Yes.
Yeah. Hey, actually, they're in both formats. They're Apple compatible and then Microsoft compatible. I think what's interesting about like your listing presentation and the property marketing plan and all the tools that we provide is that you and I, kind of me, but mostly you, had a unique experience in your career because you owned a brokerage, and you were working to get not just yourself to perform, but you were also able to get the agents on in your office, and then previous to that, the agents on your team to perform. Is you got to see how lots of people go represent themselves to their sellers, right? And you got to see some people who were already skilled doing it, and then you got to see people who weren't skilled doing it. And all of a sudden, because of that, like that repetition and being able to see how people are doing it, most people never get to see somebody else or lots of other people doing it. And I think that's part of so like with John, you were talking about John Diaz with that listing presentation and how he got that luxury. They were blown away. And to think about it, like when John was going on listing presentations up to that point, he had no perspective on what the client experiences outside of the one that he was producing, right? So maybe when you first started selling real estate, or when you first started going on listing appointments, maybe you walked around with a master listing agent, right? Like you got tips from that person, but then that fades over time. But you got a chance to see like this is like doing it over and over and over again. And so John showed up, right? And all his career, it's not like he had just started selling, he'd been selling real estate, and all of a sudden he got this new idea on how to do it differently. And it was to him just like this new idea to try something he wanted to do because he had this new listing opportunity. But to the client, it blew them away, right? To the client, it blew them away because every other person that they may have talked to, this was never their experience. They never had this level of confidence built into somebody, right? Having a property marketing plan, showing up in the way that he did. I mean, I remember, like John got to the point where he was like talk about, he did the opposite of discounting fees. He started to increase his fees because of the demand that was being placed on him.
It's incredible. I just love how people are changing their business using this. All right. Irene says, can the templates be converted to Google Docs and slides? Yes, sure. They can. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Next question. Sandra says, do you have a specific tool you recommend for sending out the client emails in the marketing club?
I suggest you use your CRM. I mean, if you can, we provide you with all the different formats to be able to send it out. And the way I suggest that you send out the emails is just to use whatever you're currently using, right? Like if you're going to send out your pre-listing packet, use whatever you're currently using. We do a lot of it through our CRM. We also use Gmail for our marketing emails. We'll do a combination of using our CRM. Sometimes I use a service like MailChimp. It just depends. That gets into more granular depending on what your situation and scenario is. That's why we have things like our member trainings, is to be able to go into a much deeper dive and explore what different situations you might have. In fact, when we do our member trainings, they're live. We have a lot more time for Q&A. People can ask their questions, and we were able to handle a lot more specifics in it.
Yeah. Next question. Cassandra says, do you send them the seller's disclosure in the pre-listing packet? I don't, because I don't want to overload them. I want to get the agreement signed, and then we'll overload them with the paperwork. The seller's disclosure statement, especially in California, is insane, and so I don't want to scare them with doing that.
Well, it's all about those baby steps. I'm reminded of your initial consultation process, right? So you guys remember that Gary sends out this pre-listing packet email after he has a phone call with that prospective seller, but before he goes on the appointment. Well, that phone call, our language for that is your initial consultation, or your discovery call. And he has a very specific format for having that conversation. It's absolutely a structured conversation.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know it. But what you do in that is you ask easy questions in the beginning, and then you escalate the intensity of the question. So you don't start off by saying, hey, what's the loan balance of your house, right? You don't start off like, hey, what's the primary objectives here? What are you trying to accomplish? We lead up to those more deeper and personal things. And so same thing with the way this whole process has been set up, whether it's the pre-listing packet, whether it's the listing appointment, appointment is you want to lead up to those more complicated, more difficult conversations, right? It's not like when you show up to the listing appointment, first thing you bust out is the listing agreement. You're not going to toss that puppy on the table and like, let's get this signed before we start talking. No. I mean, there's a process that we have to go through. And so, when one of the things, and I didn't really touch on this, but the listing presentation template that you're going to get when you sign up is one that Gary has like created, and I'll use the word engineered over 20 years, right? Like each thing, each slide, each conversation that he has as part of that listing presentation template is something that he has measured. He's measured the performance. He's engineered it to do the conversation in that fashion to achieve the outcome that we want to have. And I think that when you can borrow practices from a listing expert agent like Gary, when you can borrow those types of practices, and he's done that hard work. He's worked in the field 20 years crafting and fine-tuning his listing presentation. You should swipe that. Like you should absolutely leverage his experience and knowledge.
If it's working to get like 6 listing appointments a week and to carry 50 listing appointments at a time, and it's been mastered over 23 years, why change it? Right. Why try and create it yourself? Just go sign up, $67, and just take everything that we're doing and do it and just copy it. That's why we're here. We want you to copy everything we're doing.
Yeah, I don't know. Is this you've been working with lots of folks over the years, and you've coached many agents at your firms that you've owned. Is it common not to like go steal ideas from other people? Would you say? Or do we try to go at it alone? Do we try to Lone Ranger?
We're Lone Ranger, and it's like, well, I'll just force my way through it, and that's not the best way to do it.
I grew up in a different. I grew up in the tech and marketing space in real estate, but like when you look at the profession, I first started off as a programmer. Right, one of my first jobs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
was a programmer, and you'd be surprised at how lazy programmers are. We will spend 2 days searching for a program, like for a little piece of code that's already been written, than to spend the 2 hours to actually just write it. Like we will literally spend 2 days searching for work that someone else has done, so we don't have to spend 2 hours to write it. So I've always taken sort of the lazy approach to stuff. That's why I like, hey, I'm going to do as little as possible to get the greatest benefit that I can, because I think inherently built into me is this sort of lazy programmer mentality.
I love that. All right, Kelly, she just responded and said, I already logged in and everything we saw today was there. Awesome,
thanks,
Kelly.
Kelly.
I'm so glad that you saw that. And then also another comment I just saw was, oh gosh, where did that one go?
Somebody must have marked it as a chat or unchat. We have a team of support here hanging out with us.
Anyway, okay, so let's keep going because we've got a lot more questions. This is it. Sashi says, thank you, Chris and Gary. I have signed up. Looking forward to working with you and your success. Awesome, Sashi. By the way, if you have signed up and you're still here with us, go into the chat section and say, I'm in. Let everybody else know you're in. It kind of introduces everybody, and then what'll happen is that down the line, as you're on Facebook, you run into them as well.
I got an idea. If you're thinking about signing up and you haven't yet, tell us why. I'm curious. Maybe there's a question we can answer. Maybe there's a tip we can give. Maybe there's, some connect you with somebody else here that has. I mean, if you're thinking of signing up and you haven't, go to the chat section and let us know why as we get to a few more questions.
Crystal Lewis says, I'm in and have already requested the Facebook group. That's awesome. Well, be a little patient. Our team has to go through and process to make sure that only members who signed up are allowed into the Facebook group.
Yeah, do give a little bit of grace there. Have some patience. We have to actually go in and look up each person to make sure that they're a member. We always want to make sure that the people are members. And what we find is that prevents the group from getting spammed by a lot of people who are not in real estate or who are just trying to sell services to people in real estate. So that's kind of our what do you call that, checkpoint to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Oh, Chris, you're going to love this one. By offering these, Seth says, through links, do you worry about your competition getting a hold of it and ripping it off? No, I don't. And in fact, here's the thing. All of these videos that Chris shared in that email and in our client welcome kit is on our public YouTube channel. I mean,
totally.
Realtors can go in there and try and steal it all they want. Why am I not concerned? I have yet to see anybody who is not in our club go and actually execute on this. Why? Because they don't know how to do it. They don't
Yeah.
know what they don't know what to do. They just see the videos and they're like, oh, that's a good video.
Well, here's what I'm gonna say. Also, from the experience of the person who views it, right? So the person who's going to view it is that there might be a lead, or maybe we use the video for lead generation, right? We actually use we one of our primary forms of lead generation is actually using video and using video marketing. Study found that firms using video generate 6 times more leads, and we definitely find that to be true. So we do a tremendous amount of video. Here's what I find is that because the video is of us, right? Like they can't rip us off. They could probably go and try and look like Gary and me, or like Gary's brother who's on our team. Like they could put on a Gary mask and say those things, but here's the fact of the matter: this is our expertise, our confidence. I mean, even if they typed out everything that we said and they went to go say it, this is our personal experience. This is our knowledge. This is our experience, our wisdom that's being reflected in what we share. And here's what I find is that it's not about just copying the video, right? What happens is when somebody watches that video, there is, and I can't really describe why this is, but similar to when you sit down and have coffee with somebody, there's a connection that's being built, right? Like there is this relationship that's being developed even before we've had this conversation. I have this all the time, right? And I experience this all the time with the videos of people that I watch, or people who watch our videos, is like we start to develop what I'll call an affinity for the people that we're seeing and listening to in the videos that we're watching. Probably much like if you're still here today and you've been with us for an hour and 40 some minutes, there's a bit of an affinity that we're developing together just by this shared experience that we're having. And video is the medium that we're using to communicate. And so what I find is that it doesn't matter whether they take the videos and rip them off. When we bring that person to see our video and we've directed them there, and that seller, that prospective seller is watching that video, that affinity is being developed, that trust is being established. So even if someone else like rips off the video entirely, that's fine, because you know what? They're going to build affinity with their customers or with their prospects. We're focused on ours. And so I think when we focus on what we do have, when we focus on the assets that we have, when we focus on our contacts and connections, when we focus on our own real estate processes, then you can pretty much ignore what the competition is doing. Now, I'm not saying you should ignore them completely. Where I always find benefit in paying attention to what the competition is doing is to be able to look at what they're doing and asking the question, why are they doing that? Because I might come up with a different solution as to why they're doing it. So, like I remember there was a period of time when a lot of people were using those. They would offer, hey, use my moving truck. Remember, Gary?
Oh, yeah.
Use my moving truck. And so, So, let's say there's actually somebody in a neighborhood I used to live in. That's one of his things is use my moving truck, right? So I don't think we should go out and get a moving truck. I think the question to ask is, why is he offering that, right? Well, one of the things I know he's offering that is because he wants to be able to have that thing driven around, and he's got his mug painted on the side of that thing, right? So like there's branding there. But from a customer standpoint, what he's trying to zero in on is the move is going to be easy, right? Mm-hmm. The move is going to be easy. You can save yourself a little bit of money and use my truck instead of having to go buy one, right? So if I looked at that and said, all right, he's producing this because he wants to make it easier and he's trying to help them save a little bit of moving costs. Is there another creative way in which I could do that? So that's how I like to use competition, is to spark the ideas of what distinctive value that we can offer in our client experience to our customers. And when you start doing that, right, when you start thinking about distinctive value, what problems are they solving? How can I do it creatively? How can I do that uniquely? You're speaking a world of difference when it comes to distinctive value, meaning that why I should hire you over somebody else, to your prospective client, to those leads. At that point, you don't have to work as hard at lead generation, because you are literally, by doing that, creating the word of mouth engine, and you're fueling the word of mouth with exactly what's necessary to have people start becoming attracted to your real estate practice, right? Because you truly are serving it uniquely, because it's different. It's like, wow, you've done this differently. So anyway, I forget what the original question was about. Oh, competition seeing our videos. Not worried about it, right? We're really not worried about it.
Yeah. Nora says, do we have to join different clubs for other coaching programs? No,
just ours.
Chris likes to say this, is our club is like ragu. It's in there. Basically, everything that we have learned over the past 23 years that works for us in our own real estate business is in there. You get it. And all
For
you have to
those of
do,
you,
Nora,
for those of you who are young, that ragu is ragu spaghetti sauce, and it's
yeah,
about a 40-year-old commercial from when Gary and I were kids. And there was this commercial. Maybe you guys remember it. There was like an uncle or a grandpa, and then and like his
and
nephew
it's
or a
nephew, yeah.
grandson, and they're in the kitchen, and he's like, "Hey, Grandpa, you making the sauce?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm making the sauce." And he's like,
You got
stirring the
garlic?
sauce. He's like, "Has it got the garlic?" And he's like, "It's in there." And he's like, "Well, you got the tomatoes?" And so he's like, "It's in there." I think you can actually YouTube that commercial, and it's actually on
It's
YouTube.
really funny.
So we like to joke around because that it's like that commercial, and then "Where's the beef?" Like those were my favorite commercials as a kid growing up. Where's the beef, right? So, where's the value? So anyway, I digress.
That's all right. All
So
right.
side
So
note,
Nora
like,
and everybody else, if you haven't joined yet, go join right now because we're going to get to our last question right now. Kelly says, do you also have ideas or training on how to make YouTube videos? Oh, yeah. It's in there.
oh yeah, it's in there. In fact, we've done a lot around video. I'll share with you. I've provided training. I've had some of our members, like specifically Mary Anglin, who's a YouTube master. I've brought her on to one of our member trainings, and she explained how she went from never doing video ever to all of a sudden doing video on the regular. In fact, she even shares her videos in that private Facebook group, of which you guys will be able to see. I've even brought in outside experts from like Wistia. If you're familiar with Wistia, they're a big hosting platform. I brought the video expert on there, and I remember him training us on, hey, video is not a strategy, it's a format, right? And so yes, we've done a lot, and we've even brought in our own video guy who does the video for our Paperless training, who also does it for our Crest partners, who does a lot of the listing videos that we do. I brought him in to do not one but two different trainings on exactly how to develop how to think of shot composition and all the stuff that you need, like how to think about lighting. And here's the crazy thing, Gary, you guys can produce videos with your phone, right? Like if you just know some basic stuff, like the law of, like the rule of thirds, right? Like thirds, you take the screen like this and you put it into thirds. And then the rule of lighting, like try to get as much natural lighting, and where you don't have natural lighting, get a cheap light kit and just kind of shine that on. Your videos will look way more professional. And that's exactly what we've done through those trainings, as well as there's a lot of example, because we've got a lot of members who have said to themselves, we're going to do video. Heck, we've even had the expert, Dennis, you come on and do a whole training on how to do Facebook on $1 a day, 1 minute videos to be able to build up your real estate practice. So yes, we've talked a lot about video. It's something we're very bullish on. My belief is that, as a marketer, my belief is that video is going to become like the email of today, right? So like email is just all right, everybody does email. Like if you look at Gen Z and then you look at the upcoming generation, they have videos like sort of this. It's almost like an innate ability. Like they can get onto a camera, they can record themselves on video, and it's like a natural thing, way more natural than those of us who did not grow up with a device that has a video capability. And so what's going to happen in the coming years, and I would say, is that it's going to become more and more of the preferred method of communication and the transmission of information, right? So here's an interesting stat. People retain 90% of a message when it's in video compared to only 10% of that message in text. So when we experience a video, we retain 90% of that message when it's in video, right? You take that same message, drop it into text, there's only 10% retention on that. So that just goes to speak to the volume of its effectiveness, right? And how well it is as a communication platform. And know that upcoming generations, they prefer this method of communication. They don't want to have to sit there and type crap out. They want to be able to Snapchat it to you. They don't want to have to sit there and even like They just want to be able to talk to you and then be able to say the words and have it go. And so I would say that that's not the way it is today. But don't wait for that to happen to be the day you decide, well, now I should have that skill. That's a skill, and we can be learning how to add that skill right now. And you can get that skill by joining the club.
Go do it right now. Don't let the day get away from you. Like Chris said, just go do it. You're really gonna benefit from this, and we look forward to seeing you in there. By the way, I wanted to say so grateful for you for being with us today. I mean, we've been here for an hour and 51 minutes. Doesn't seem like that because I think we had so much fun, and we hope you
It
had
was a lot of fun
too.
today. I hope, Gary, this has been fun. I know you love listings. I know you love talking about listings. I know you love talking about listing appointments and listing presentations. And so I've had a lot of fun just sharing this information with everybody, with you, because you're obviously, you know what the heck you're talking about when it comes to listings.
I think so. But, don't trust what Chris says. Just go in, join the club, and learn for yourself. Go click on the link and go join it right now. And with that, we're going to sign off. We appreciate you, Chris. Well done. Love this today. And man, we'll see all of you new members in our Facebook group.
All right, guys, we'll see you on the next. Oh, by the way, the next member training is next week, and I believe the topic is going to be the ultimate 2020 Just Listed campaign. I think that's what we're going to be talking about. So an effective Just Listed campaign is going to do several things. Not only is it going to help you market listings, it's going to help bring those listings back using the boomerang effect. So with that, guys, we'll see you in the next member training. We will see you in the private Facebook group. We'll see you online. See you, Gary.